All right, everybody. Today we're going to try a YouTube video. One of my Twitter followers has been insisting that I do a YouTube video or try this format out. And since he seems to have some expertise in digital marketing, I'm going to take the expert advice for it. We'll see how these work out. I'll put a couple of them up. If the format works, it works. I might do more of it. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So today we're going to look at the OBR forecasts. They have a lot of headlines today, basically saying that real household disposable income is going to fall in the UK by 7% in the next 2 years, which is quite a lot. I think it's a record in the time series since 1957 when the data starts. But the numbers immediately stand out that they probably are factoring in some overly optimistic assumptions, or at least very rosy assumptions. So in this video, we'll kind of look at what those underlying assumptions are and what it might look like if we put in alternative assumptions that seem more in keeping with what we know about the energy crisis. So basically, the key assumption in the OBR forecast. So there's two components to real disposable income. One is nominal disposable income, that's without an inflation adjustment, and then of course there's inflation. So if you look through the forecasts for the nominal disposable income growth, they seem pretty reasonable. You can never tell exactly how the OBR arrive at their numbers, but you can run some tests, some pretty simple tests, and see what they're doing. And basically, without going into too much detail, they seem to be using their GDP estimates. So the nominal disposable income numbers look fine. They have them basically factored in for about 4.8% growth in 2022. 4.5 in 2023, 2.5 in 2024. And that might sound like a lot given the fact that we're in a recession, but actually those numbers are relatively typical of a recession. They're a little high, but of course inflation's quite high, so I think that's okay. The key assumption that they're making, though, is about inflation. So basically they're saying that inflation is going to be 9.1% in 2022, and it's going to fall to 7.4% in 2023. And it's then going to fall to 0.6% in 2024. So that's what I call an extreme assumption. The OBR often slip these rather extreme assumptions into their forecasts without telling people. So what's their inflation projection based on? Well, there's a breakdown of it with all the components there. So basically, it's across the board decline, but what really stands out, of course, is gas and electricity bills seem to start to decline in 2023 and to have gone back to normal in 2024. I mean, maybe they do, but the OBR hasn't really put out an argument about why this happens. The headlines that I'm showing right now seem to suggest that the energy crisis will get worse in 2023. That's certainly what it looks like if you look at the data. Remember that in 2022 we had whatever it was, half a year worth of Russian gas imports before they were squeezed off in the summer. And unless something drastic changes, they don't get any better next year. So whereas this year we had to go half a year without Russian gas imports in Europe, next year we have to go an entire year. I've written about the LNG thing before. LNG costs 40% more than piped gas. So all in all, I would call these extreme assumptions. At the very least, a journalist, doubtful, but a journalist should go up to the OBR and go, why are you making these assumptions about gas and energy prices? So what we can do is we can create alternative inflation projections, and we can plug them into the OBR forecasts. And these will give us a sense of what we might see if the energy crisis continues rolling along. So I've just put in that rather than falling to 7.4% inflation rate in 2023, I've assumed that the inflation rate roughly sticks at where it is today, which is about 11%. And then in 2024, I'm assuming that it remains elevated at about 10%. Again, these are high inflation numbers, but there's nothing really extreme about these assumptions. They are the numbers that we've seen recently, and there's good reason to assume that the energy crisis will continue. So I think these are reasonable. And maybe the energy crisis abates for some reason, but that's then something would have to happen. So I'm just assuming that nothing really happens, nothing dramatic anyway. So this is what it would look like in terms of percentage decline. You see that the OBR forecasts in the light blue grayish color go down a little bit and then they rebound. Again, this is all due to the falling CPI that they assume. Whereas if we assume a continued energy crisis, those numbers fall and fall. And if we look at it in terms of an index, we can get a sense of how far that would fall. So the OBR are famously assuming a 7% decline in 2023. You see it there. And then they're assuming a rebound. So in 2024, we'll have seen a 5% decline from 2021. If we plug in the alternative CPI numbers, we get a 17 or 18% decline in real disposable income. So that's about a fifth of people's disposable income wiped out. I mean, that's a complete, decimation of living standards. Again, who knows what happens with the energy crisis moving forward, but I'm just assuming that it stays the same. So unless the OBR can answer questions about where they're getting their energy price projections, I don't think their projections are either realistic or even conservative. They seem like extreme projections to me, but the OBR often does this. One last thing, I'm not going to model it because it would take up far too much time, but these are the projected current account balances. So they're assuming that the current account deficit this year, 2022, is about 6%. That'll probably end up being roughly accurate. They're assuming in 2023 that it falls back to around 5%. Now, Deutsche Bank famously projected during the summer that the current account deficit in 2023 for the United Kingdom will be 10%. And they were, I've since seen that they've walked it back. That's a different discussion. They seem to have drank the Kool-Aid on energy costs. But that projection was just assuming that the 2023 energy crisis is as bad as I assume it to be, unless something changes. So again, these current account deficits, I haven't stripped it all down, but you can bet that this is based on their rosy projection of energy costs. So overall, the OBR are hiding the energy crisis. The Chancellor's budget blew past the energy crisis, ignored it. The OBR forecasts that come out that are supposed to be an independent check and balance on government are also hiding the energy crisis. I wish journalists would go and ask questions to the OBR and the Chancellor about their assumptions about energy costs next year, because nobody seems to be doing it. So we'll see. Maybe something changes. Maybe Nord Stream comes back online. Maybe there are peace talks. Maybe Martians land with tubs of LNG that they hand out in Piccadilly Circus. But these will be what economists call exogenous events. These aren't baked in at the moment, and we don't know if they will happen or not. So I think we're probably safer making projections on what we know today and what's currently happening. But we'll see. Maybe in the meantime, somebody can ask the OBR some questions about their energy forecasts, because apparently nobody's doing it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Again, as I said, we'll see what kind of response this format gets. And if people like it, I might do more of it.